In February 2021, 11 employees walked out of the most powerful AI lab on the planet. No press release, no public drama, just 11 people picking up their things and leaving. Together, they had helped build the technology the whole world would soon be racing to copy. And they walked away because they believed what they were building could destroy civilization. 4 years later, the company they founded was valued at nearly $1 trillion, and the AI they built had beaten their old employer at its own game. This is the story of Anthropic, and it starts with a brother, a sister, and a question nobody in Silicon Valley wanted to ask out loud. To understand Anthropic, you have to understand the world it was born into. It was 2018. OpenAI had just published GPT-1, a language model that could generate eerily coherent text. Impressive, and to the people inside the lab, alarming, because they could see what nobody outside could yet. The models weren't just getting better. They were getting better faster than expected. Each generation was a leap, not a step. If that curve continued, where did it end? At the center of that question was Dario Amodei, PhD in computational neuroscience from Princeton, a stint at Baidu's AI lab. He arrived at OpenAI in 2016 as VP of Research, one of the people directly responsible for scaling these models into something the world had never seen. His sister, Daniela, ran operations, the person making sure the trains ran on time inside one of the most complicated research organizations on Earth. And both of them believed, increasingly, that the lab was moving too fast, toward something too powerful, without nearly enough effort spent understanding what would happen if it actually worked. There are two versions of what happened next. The polite version is that Dario and Daniela left to start a safety-focused lab. The honest version is that they left because of a fundamental disagreement about what responsible AI development actually looks like. OpenAI had restructured in 2019, creating a profit arm to attract investment. Microsoft came in with $1 billion. The pressure to ship, to compete, to monetize it grew. And to Dario and his allies, the safety research wasn't keeping pace. The gap between what models could do and what anyone understood about why was widening. In February 2021, Dario resigned. Daniela resigned. And then, one by one, 9 more of OpenAI's most senior researchers followed them out the door. Not junior employees, not interns, people who had helped invent the techniques powering the whole field. Within months, they raised $124 million from investors who believed you could build the world's most capable AI and the world's safest without having to choose between them. The company they built was different from the start. Not different in the way startups say they're different, actually different in how they thought about the thing they were making. Anthropic's core idea was something they called constitutional AI. Instead of training a model and hoping it behaved well, you train it to critique its own outputs against a written set of principles. You teach it to be honest, harmless, and helpful, not by policing every answer, but by baking the values into the training itself. From this came Claude, named after Claude Shannon, the mathematician who invented information theory, a signal that this wasn't just a product. It was a statement about what AI should be. Claude 2 followed 6 months later, then Claude 3 in early 2024. And with it, the first moment the industry had to seriously reckon with what Anthropic had built. Claude 3 Opus didn't just match GPT-4. On reasoning, on coding, on nuanced language, it beat it. The lab that walked out 3 years earlier had pulled ahead. Here's where it gets complicated. Because Anthropic's whole identity was built on being different, on doing this responsibly, on taking the long view. And then the money arrived. Not normal startup money. Google invested hundreds of millions in early 2023. Then Amazon announced a deal that stunned the industry, up to $4 billion, with cloud infrastructure tied to it. Anthropic would run on Amazon servers. AWS would get a powerful AI partner. By end of 2024, Anthropic had raised over $9 billion total. The valuation climbed from hundreds of millions to 18 billion, then 60 billion. In May 2026, a new round pushed it past 965 billion. And in June 2026, the company filed confidentially for an IPO. The safety lab built by people who believed AI was moving too fast was now racing toward the public markets. This is the tension at the heart of Anthropic, and it doesn't resolve neatly. On one hand, Anthropic is genuinely doing safety research nobody else funds at this scale. They publish work on what they call model welfare, the possibility AI systems might have internal states that matter. They have teams studying catastrophic risk scenarios where AI goes wrong not in a PR crisis way, but in a civilization-ending way. On the other hand, they are building ever more powerful models, taking billions from the cloud giants their safety research is supposed to hold accountable, competing ferociously in the same race they once warned was too fast. Dario has a name for this. He calls it the responsible scaling policy, the idea that you can define in advance what capabilities would be too dangerous and commit publicly to stopping before you cross those lines. Maybe a naive framework, or maybe the only honest one possible for a company that believes it's building something that could rewrite history and is doing it anyway. Dario and Daniela don't pretend the contradiction doesn't exist. They walk into it, eyes open, and make the bet that the people inside the room are better positioned to slow this thing down than anyone outside. So here's where we land. 11 people walked out of the most powerful AI lab on Earth because they believed the world wasn't ready. Then they built something even more powerful, raised nearly $1 trillion doing it, and filed to go public. You could read that as a failure of principles, or the most honest response to an impossible situation. We think this technology will exist regardless, so we're going to be the ones building it, carefully, with our eyes open. The question Anthropic was founded to answer is still open. Can the most capable AI company in the world also be the most responsible one? Nobody knows. But 11 people decided in 2021 that finding out was worth leaving everything for. If you want more stories of the people building the world we're about to live in, subscribe to Tech Origins. Because every empire starts somewhere small.